Okay, Al. Our next topic is really the current state of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, so I've been playing it a bit more recently, and again, maybe in anticipation for this particular podcast as well. And I'm not using my laptop anymore on that one. I'm using my desktop again back in London. It's interesting because I know they've released kind of two big patches. There's I think 1.1 and 1.2, and I've experienced, I guess, maybe 1.1 and 1.2. I didn't play the buggy mess that it was on day one. But even
Good for you, mate.
yeah, so if I talk about my experiences of 1.1, even within the sort of 5 hours I played on the intro bit and getting through the sort of initial bit, and I'll avoid, because I'm sure a lot of people are still holding off on the game. I'll try and avoid spoilers where possible on this one. So, on the very first intro bit, you kind of get through, you kind of get introduced to your character and a few other characters. Things eventually change, things get reset. And even within those sort of 5 hours of that initial bit, I had probably one or two game-breaking bugs, in terms of the immersion anyway. So one was...
But that's the first 5 hours.
Yeah, so there was two, at least two. I mean, the main one, and again, I'm avoiding some sort of small visual glitches, like, items that are underneath the ground and you can't pick it up. Yeah, I'll ignore those ones, right? Those are very minor that they could fix. But this one there was a boss coming out of an elevator and it got stuck. So it was just in the elevator shooting at you. And
presumably you could shoot.
You could shoot it as well, so it would slowly lose HP, but it was stuck there. And then obviously off the back of actually killing it, I think you could just loot it, but then it would then fall into one of those ragdoll poses where it's kind of just draped in the middle of the elevator in this kind of glitching kind of
twitching as well, no doubt.
Yeah. The other one was not really game. It wasn't game breaking to the same extent as this one, but it's sometimes when you kill an enemy and you take off their head, they're still talking, and I'm thinking like, how is that even?
Did this thing go through any sort of quality assurance? I mean, that's the question I've got to ask about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they do blame the kind of quality testing on it, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. There's just so many of them that were in there. I guess it wasn't too bad. There was only two in the 5 hours, and then I would say,
I mean, it just feels like they absolutely rushed it out. I mean, there's rushing it out, and then there's rushing it out. You know what I mean? I mean, this is like, wow.
And I would say I didn't experience the same amount of glitches that I'd seen online. The visual glitches and other things. Obviously, it was on a PC still, and a pretty good spec PC, and not the console ones, because if it was the PS4 or Xbox one, that had the worst brunt of it, right?
Yeah, I think the PC was the best version, and I don't think you didn't really play it day one, did you?
No. So I avoided it on day one because again, I waited. Heard about the buggy mess. You know what, I'll just wait. And I would say that 1.2, I got more into the main story. I was actually spending more time on my side quests. I've picked up a vehicle. Just more just random roaming around the environment. And I would say less issues there. I had maybe one interesting one where the police did pop up. But I think they'd already fixed that in 1.2. As in, I think the issue is even in 1.1 was that if you committed a crime, the police would suddenly just appear behind you. In this one, I think in 1.2, the only thing is I could see that they were close. They weren't quite just bang on behind me, but they were close, and I was able to get out of it. But I could see that why people would be annoyed at that one. But yeah,
I mean, what I will say,
about
some of this stuff. I mean, I kind of looked at their roadmap for improvement. The fact that they had to publish a roadmap, because to my mind, it is not really a game like Destiny or Warframe. Where you've kind of maybe got a gaming as a service sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had to basically say, I think, what did they say? I think like quality is a priority.
Yeah.
Quality never, not always a priority. I mean, maybe am I missing something here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then I remember for 1.2, and actually 1.21, I think it's out now. You know, those patches. I decided I'll read the release notes. And certainly in 1.2, it was quite a lengthy list of stuff they were fixing.
Yes, it was.
Crazy amount of stuff, actually, I thought.
I've experienced something that I think has been detrimental. I think the driving has got worse.
Really?
Yeah, they seem to have suggested that they fixed it or improved it. But I think 1.2, it feels really, really janky, really, really slow. I think it's better, and maybe that's because I'm playing... When I drive the car, I'm in the third-person view, the kind of zoomed-out view. But I think when you're in person, because you've got the steering wheel in front of you, it looks a bit more real, and it's actually supposed to go at that pace. But when you're in the third person, it feels so laggy and delayed. But that's because I'm pretty certain inside it's still doing the full turning of the wheel in a too much of a slow fashion.
How weird.
Yeah, so,
but you know what I got out reading the release notes now, Al? I got that. I don't know about game break. Well, depends on your definition of game breaking. But there was a lot of progression blocking.
Yeah.
I kind of went down the list and I thought, okay, well, doesn't that stop you from progressing? Then I looked down a little bit further. Well, that actually stops you from progressing also.
Yeah.
And actually, that does as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the amount of times the word crash came up, it was a little bit, I felt a little bit uneasy. I thought, so how many game crashes have you actually fixed here?
I don't think I've actually experienced one. I'm just trying to think. No, okay, I think I had at least one in 1.1, but I've not had one in 1.2.
Well, I mean, it can't be the case that this happens all of the time, right? Because, you got to account for the different combinations and permutations, but still, with the amount of, let's say, fixes they were talking about, wowee.
Yeah, and they've still got a way to go with quite a lot of these fixes. But I would say now, if people are listening and still waiting, is it the right time to go in? I mean, for me, it feels okay. I'm enjoying it. I'll probably play more of it tomorrow.
For the PC, and looking at the size of 1.2, the fact that 1.21's come out, I think 1.22's coming out. For PC, I think it might be the right time, and that was always the better version or the best version of the game.
Yeah, I have no idea of the state of the consoles right now.
Yeah, it's still not great. I think the PS4 Pro version of it is probably in the best state. Yeah, I don't really know about the base consoles. Yeah, but I can imagine those being quite horrible. And obviously the current gen consoles, Xbox Series X and PS5, they're not prioritizing those things at the moment. Yeah,
but I'm having an enjoyable time. Yeah, I'm at the moment. I'm just now. I think I'm just under level 10, but there's a whole kind of internal leveling system as well as a perks system. So there's a lot of customization you can do to your character. So lots of things in there. I've barely touched the surface.
That's the strangest thing about Cyberpunk, though, Al. People have really not been saying whether it's a good or bad game.
Yeah, that's the thing. They like to focus on the negatives, right? I mean, that's why.
I know, and it's totally true. But it's kind of like the narrative of the whole subject is that no one's actually talking about whether it's a good or bad game to play.
I think from a general, okay. If I was to compare it to something like Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, right? Fallout 3, I thought was still a bit of a messy shooter. Fallout 4 was much more complete. Yeah, much nicer. And the shooting on it improved vastly. Fallout 4 I go back to all the time. I still really like it. And I would say that it's probably between those two, I would say. The shooting actually is pretty good in Cyberpunk. There is a few times there's game immersion breaking where I would say that the AI is a bit, and the surrounding area of the AI is a bit too generic. As an example, there was a section I was in a diner, speaking to a character, talking throughout the quest. But then behind them, there's a waitress and a guy, and the guy is just eating this burger continually, just constantly eating the burger non-stop throughout this whole dialogue. And I'm thinking, this is so distracting. Seriously, stop eating that burger. But it's just janky AI stuff that's just there.
Weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just hope people are enjoying the game.
It's good. At its core, it's still a really good RPG. There's still a lot of content, a lot of dialogue. If you can look past some of these other things, I think at its core, it's still really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to play it, soon. One day. I won't say soon, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a shame as to how it's kind of how the whole kind of Cyberpunk thing has developed.
Yeah, and there's the more recent narrative around people being concerned about multiplayer never coming now as an original promise, and things like that. So, I think the developers have already said that no, whilst they have less focus on multiplayer now, we've not abandoned the game. We're still looking to try and make it the game that they wanted. So they're still committed to doing and fixing the game.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to say. I mean, at the end of the day, the product wasn't up to snuff when it came out. No way.
Yeah.
And to be honest, quality assurance. What quality assurance? That's how it feels.
Yeah.
That they've done minimal quality assurance and have just chucked it out into the wild.
Yeah, but even then, it's an interesting one because I'm sure that if even they just spun it up on any console, the consistency of message that they would have got there would have been that it just isn't. It's not even playable. Why even ship it? It doesn't make any sense for the base consoles. And then,
but it's still very flaky on PC. Also, that's the thing. And is that forgivable? I'm not sure actually.
Yeah.
Is it a case that you decided that you really needed to ship the game because we've got a business to run, which I can accept, but then we got shareholders to basically appease.
Yeah.
And we're going to get it out there because we're on a tight timeline and budget, and the gamers out there are the ones who are going to have to basically suffer.
Yeah.
Or the consumer.
And the interesting thing is there's still that disparity of the reviews. The reviews were still very high. I mean, were they really just avoiding looking at the at all these issues? I don't know. It just feels it was still very skewed.
Yeah, there's no smoke without fire. I genuinely feel there's just too many issues with this, or there were too many issues with this game. Before maybe kind of patches start to roll out. For it to be just chance.
Yeah.
And equally, I think The Witcher was also something that had to improve over time.
Yeah.
It wasn't to this kind of level.
Yeah, and maybe obviously with the hype around Cyberpunk, but then again, I think Witcher itself is there's still bugs and it can be a bit janky, but that's because of its game engine. I think similar to the issues with Bethesda. I think with moving Fallout 4's engine into Fallout 76 was. I don't know. That just seems like a crazy idea to do it, especially moving into multiplayer as well. So
everybody seems to have an engine.
Yep.
The go-to excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guessing. I don't think the base console's version of Cyberpunk's anywhere near good at the moment. I think the PC's definitely the best place to play it.
I mean, I just don't know why you would. Well, I can understand why you would play it. It's if you didn't have access to a PC, then to actually play it at the right hardware level, then yeah, I can understand why. But you must know, if you buy it on PS4 or Xbox, that it can't run. It's not going to run nice, right?
No. Definitely not. I mean, like I said, I think this game should have been a poster child for the next generation. But instead, it seems to be a poster child for everything that's wrong with the games industry.
but I would still say it's not as bad as Fallout 76. Fallout 76 was just that was
yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. It's this whole thing because there's a pandemic going on in the world and people paying more attention. Is it the hype surrounding the game that people have this kind of crazy expectation, or is it that this game's developer is bloody taking a piss? I can't decide. You know what I mean? It's a tough one to call.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both.
But what I will say is at least they're trying to address the wrongs here.
Yep. Yep.
It's like Sony reversing the decision on the game store closures. So they're listening.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. Thank God they're listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't, that would have been a totally different problem. But
yeah. I guess the other thing, with Cyberpunk as well, I would have actually liked a more darker feeling game. Because
is it not dark?
It is in certain places. As in, obviously, if it's the nighttime environment, it's all right. But it's still not like a, if you looked at some of the original kind of concept trailers and other things, or if you took a something like a Blade Runner kind of feel, I would love it to be more Blade Runner-y style and feel versus the more, because there's some really bright scenes in Cyberpunk 2077, but then it just feels like it's a completely different game.
That is interesting. I mean, that's not the kind of like tone I expected from the game, if you know what I mean. I kind of expected it to be very Blade Runner.
Yeah, it needs a bit more of that. That's what it feels like.
Interesting. But Al, do you think they've turned the corner with Cyberpunk or not?
I think it's playable on PC. I think it's playable now.
Ooh, that's not a massive endorsement, mate. It really isn't.
But then I'm not that far. Okay, so if I was to say could I do a review on Cyberpunk, I don't think I could. Right, I've not finished. I probably only maybe 15% of the way through. I don't know what level of progression I'm in there, but I think it's really just touching the main kind of section. So yeah, there may be some much more progression breaking or game breaking bugs later on, which may impact that number, right? Of how I'd rate the overall experience of the game.
Interesting. Okay, Al, I think there's going to be more to come from Cyberpunk.
For sure.
Equally, there might be more consequences for CD Projekt Red as a consequence of Cyberpunk, but we'll wait and see. I don't think it's actually still available on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, that's right. They had the whole mess with the refunds and stuff. Yeah,
I think that's still status quo in many ways. But let's hope they're able to continue the fixes they're rolling out for the game.
Yeah.
And they've learned something from this. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
because it's a mess. It's very messy, very messy.
Yeah.
Al, let's move on to the next topic. It's about time, I feel. Actually, is there a next topic? I don't think there is.
I think we're going to done.
Yeah. So Al, let's move on